Hello everyone and welcome to Byju's and welcome to another video on governance. Now in this video we will be studying about e-governance. We'll start off with a definition of e-governance. We'll see various stages of e-governance. We'll then move on and also study the models of e-governance, some advantages, some initiatives taken by the government and some challenges. Towards the end, we will also see a survey that the Government of India releases and ranks the states as well as the central departments and ministries on incorporating e-governance insofar as delivery of services is concerned. So let's move and begin our video. First up, when it comes to e-government means a more productive, a more effective form of government, which is made possible by the increasing ICT, meaning a government which becomes more productive and effective through the incorporation of information and communication technology. Whereas e-governance operates on the government paradigm based on the governance model, that is comprehensive delivery of goods and services by building a synergy between the state, the market and the civil society. I hope you remember while we were discussing governance, I did tell you about the network governance, the triangulation model of governance, wherein delivery of goods and services is not limited to the government only. The government can outsource the services to the market and then the audit can be conducted by the civil society. So, e-governance is based on the same synergy between the state, the market and the civil society. So, herein we are simply going to use ICT as a platform for the delivery of goods and services. And people also try to define e-governance as the integration of ICT, that is information and communication technology, in all processes with the aim of enhancing government's ability to address the needs of general public. See, the purpose per se of incorporation of ICT is to simplify the process for all, for the government, for the business, as well as citizens. And this simplification should be done at all levels, the national level, the state level, as well as the local level. And our Prime Minister, the incumbent Prime Minister, has in one speech tried to talk about e-governance, where he says that e-governance is easy governance. E-governance is effective governance. It is also economic governance. E-governance paves the way for good governance. However, we would also like to add that e-governance should also mean empowered governance. We are going to empower people by delivering services effectively. So, this is all about the definition of sorts of e-governance. Now, for a comprehensive definition, e-governance means the application of ICT, information and communication technology, for providing government services, exchange of information, transactions, integration of previously existing services and information portals. This can be seen as a definition of e-governance. And corresponding to this, the first major step taken was the establishment of the Department of Electronics in 1970 as a separate department. Now coming to the stages of e-governance. So what are the various stages of e-governance? First stage is the simple information dissemination stage, wherein there is one-way data transfer. This is the most basic, and largely the government organizations are stuck here. When you have a website which will only give you information, you can log in and access information. That is what is called simple information dissemination stage. And this is sadly where all the organizations of the government, primarily the state governments, are stuck. Second is the two-way communication, wherein demand-driven data transfer, supply of data and information. So a two-way communication is a demand-driven data transfer, wherein people can put in some inputs and seek corresponding information. Third is the delivery of financial services. The next stage would be financial transactions over ICT. Stage number 3. Then integration, intra and inter-department, both vertical as well as horizontal, meaning linking the departments in a ministry, various ministries, and then center and state level departments and ministries through LAN, through WAN, so on and so forth. So integration would be the next step. And finally, we have public participation, wherein government devises websites to get inputs from people. And a very popular website is mygov.in, wherein you can put up your grievances and also suggestions to the government. So these are various stages insofar as e-governance is concerned. Now let's also move on and understand the various models of e-governance. So herein we will be discussing what should generally be the approach and philosophy that should govern our e-governance integration. First things first, we have something called the broadcasting model. See, when it comes to e-governance has resulted in an increase in supply of information. In today's day and age, information is received by us in huge tranches. And if we broadcast the information, make this information available to public, the central premise of this idea would be more informed citizens would be able to take more informed decisions. So, enhanced information availability would in turn mean that the entire community gets empowered. So, the first model is simply to transmit information, broadcast the information as wide as possible. So, what it does is, it disseminates useful government information. For example, after the pandemic, we saw how the government gave instructions to the telecom companies to also incorporate a 30-second audio clip as a caller tune for people to spread information on the pandemic. And also, we saw later on how the government asked the telcos to modify the 30-second clip and also incorporate things like wearing of masks, maintaining safe distance, staying safe, and also to get vaccinated as early as possible. So, dissemination of useful government information can be done, and it helps in correcting problems of information failure. However, there is one small issue. With broadcasting model, the government gives information. Whether you want the information or not is not important. So even if you were aware of the pandemic, you knew what was to be done, every time you called somebody, you would be hearing that same clip playing. So to overcome such an issue in various areas, we move to the next stage, that is called the critical flow model, or is sometimes also seen as critical information flow model. So don't be worried if you find critical information flow model, that's the same thing. Now imagine a situation where a farmer lives 200 kilometers away from the market. If he wants to sell his produce, if she wants to sell her produce, he or she will have to travel all the way to the market, find out the price, and then decide whether they want to bring the produce to the market or not. Meaning, time and distance are the biggest impediments. In the critical information flow model, obstacles such as time and distance should become irrelevant in accessing critical information. Why? Because the government is going to provide us with information, relevant information to targeted audiences, meaning information that you need specifically. Information on the prices of commodities in the market will be broadcast, will be provided to the farmers. Now, when it comes to the critical information flow model, there are some challenges. First things first is the challenge of vernacular content. We have very limited vernacular content that acts as a huge impediment in the distribution of information, in providing information. Secondly, you must have heard of your parents and elders talking about their good old days when they used to prepare for UPSC. They would go and sit in the public libraries, look out for information, understand a concept, go through books, surf through various books, discuss with friends, and that's how the concept of discussions amongst friends came out. Because in those days, we had information deficiency. Information was not readily available. However, in this current day and age, what we have is information overload. You can imagine and see for yourself the amount of PDFs you would get to study from any given topic. Every day you have hundreds of PDFs thrown on your face from various topics that you think are important, and you keep on downloading and saving those PDFs, never to be ever opened again. Information overload. So, along with critical information flow or information flow in general, we also have a challenge of overload of information. And then you have to sift through the right information, the relevant information, and the irrelevant one. And lastly, poor review and updation. Meaning, insofar as the governments are concerned, at least with respect to state governments, we can say with a lot of surety that they do not really update their websites. Their websites have very poor updation, and you will find a lot of mistakes on the websites. That's also one challenge with respect to critical flow model. Now coming to the third one, that is the comparative analysis model. So what we are going to do here is, the idea is matching cases of bad governance with those of good governance. For example, if X amount of money is required to construct 5 schools in, say, village A, then in village B, how come only 2 schools could be built using the same amount? This means that there is some problem with respect to expenditure of money in village B. So comparative analysis model assimilates best practices in the areas of governance and then uses that as a benchmark to evaluate other governance practices. So it's simply comparison using e-governance, using data, and then drawing conclusions and comparisons to ensure that if there's certain area, certain sector, certain department, some organization, some ministry which is lagging behind, then it can also be brought up, it can also be improved in its functioning. So that is the comparative analysis model. Then we have the e-mobilization model, popularly called e-advocacy or e-lobbying. So the idea here is that we will be adding the opinions and concerns of people virtually, the virtual communities. Their idea, their expertise, their concerns can also be incorporated. So it creates a diversity of virtual communities, virtual ideas, expertise, and resources which are accumulated through a virtual form of networking. Meaning, information and communication technology should become a platform to reach out, allow people to develop wider linkages. In the modern day and age, we are witnessing problems across the country. And if you are somebody who lives in Tamil Nadu, you must have heard of the issues that various groups faced with respect to the farm laws in primarily Punjab, and we saw support extended even by people from Tamil Nadu. What does this mean? This means today anybody can go on any social media platform, try to create a group of sorts and get support from far and wide across the country. This is e-advocacy, e-lobbying. This should be seen as a platform for enhancing people-people interface and generating something called social capital. The idea of people coming together even though virtually. So this is e-advocacy, e-lobbying or e-mobilization model. And lastly, we have the interactive service model. Herein, e-governance is seen as a means of improving quality and pace of service delivery. So we have various services provided by the government to the citizens, G2C. We have various services provided by businessmen to the customers, B2C. We have some services provided by the central government to the state government and vice versa. Government to citizens, government to government, business to customers, customers to business, citizens to government. This is the interactive service model wherein it opens avenues for direct participation of individuals in the governance process. Under this model, various services offered by the government become directly available to people, as I said, via these channels in an interactive manner. So these are the models of e-governance. Now, coming to some advantages that we have through the incorporation of ICT, through the advent of e-governance. So what are the advantages? First up is administrative development or improvement, meaning any kind of improvement that we have seen with respect to incorporation of e-governance in the day-to-day governmental activities. So first up, with e-governance, we find that it reduces the delays in file processing, movement, etc. In turn, enhancing the communication in the organization. How? Back in the old days, it would take time for one file to go from one desk to the other, one department to the other, one ministry to the other. So you would have to call the peon, the messenger, the daftari, and give him or her the file, and he would carry the file. In this entire process, there would be some lunch break, he would meet some people, have fun and frolic, and eventually, even if the file had to be given in the next building, it could take even a day. But now, all you have to do is send a mail and the file is transferred. That is why communication within the organization has also been enhanced because of the incorporation, the use of ICT. Secondly, the same old story of dog ate my homework. Now, it was very easy for the government officials to make this claim that the files are lost. Termites ate the file, rats ate the file. But now, since there is a centralized storage of files with multiple backups, it ensures that there is less risk of data loss. Even when there were situations of fire breaking out in a particular government office, files would get destroyed and that would be the end of it. But now this is not the case. Now, since we have multiple backups of the files, loss of data is almost negligible. Then less paperwork. Less paperwork automatically means that the workspace looks more aesthetic, more appealing. The working environment looks more aesthetic, and it also reduces the carbon footprint. How? Whenever we walk into any government office, we are always greeted with a stench of files. Files lying here and there, huge stacks of files with almost kilos and kilos of dust on the files. But with the incorporation of soft copies, digitizing all these files, what has happened is less paperwork, less paper being used, eventually increasing the appeal, the neatness of the office, and also reducing carbon footprint. Apart from it, because of less paperwork, because of less files required in a hard copy, it reduces requirement of manpower and space. Manpower because of automation and to manage these files, and space as in for storage. So now we require less space, less manpower for keeping all these files in order. So because of these factors, we can also see that the internal finances of any organization improves. Why? Because of cost cutting. So these are some of the advantages of e-governance incorporation, which have a direct effect in administrative improvement or development. Now, to come to think of it, the traditional administration was unwieldy, paper-based files, whereas e-administration is more manageable. Traditional administration has been more individualistic. It has a more individualistic orientation. How? As people exercise power through monopoly over information. So, in any organization, the seniors would have access to all the important files, and that is why, information being power, they would exercise monopoly. Whereas in e-administration, the entire organization gets empowered through proper information sharing, as information is made available centrally, central servers where you have information stored. Thus, the entire environment becomes more team-oriented compared to the individualistic environment that we faced and we felt in the traditional form of administration. Now, in traditional administration, more time is spent on routine functions, whereas in e-administration, time is saved because of automation of routine processes. This time which is saved can be utilized for improving the functioning of the department. And these routine processes can be as basic as marking attendances or applying for leaves. Back in the old days, we had in various offices the registers. The registers had to be maintained, wherein you would have columns, somebody would mark the columns, write in the attendance every day, mark a column for Sundays and holidays. It would take some time every day. But now, marking attendance has become online, so nobody needs to maintain the register as well. So, time is also saved, which was otherwise being wasted in performing some routine and generic functions. That is why people rightly say that e-governance has enabled the human civilization to overcome the historic disabilities which were posed by traditional administration in the form of being status quoist. So, historic disabilities are being overcome now. Now, apart from the improvement in administration, there are some other benefits or advantages of e-governance as well. So as far as the advantages are concerned, the first and the primary advantage is the improvement in service delivery. How? Back in the old days, ask your parents or your elder siblings that to merely pay the electricity bill, they would have to take a day off. You take a day off, stand in the queue right in the morning, bring your lunchbox as well, you fight, you argue, you shout, and by the time you reached the counter, there was also a possibility of the counter being closed or there being a lunch break. Come again tomorrow. So an entire day was wasted in just paying the electricity bill or any such other activity. Now we have e-filing of returns, all possible utility payments. They have come online, train tickets, information on the whereabouts of the train. Again, back in the old days, you had to keep on calling the railway station to get information on the arrival of the train. Now you can check the location of the train in real time. Then results of examinations, filling up forms, weather forecasts, getting certificates like caste certificate, birth certificate. Everything has improved. The entire service delivery has improved. Then e-governance also facilitates anytime, anywhere governance, meaning 24/7 governance. Now governance is not limited to just Monday to Friday. Again, earlier, if you submitted any document on say Thursday or Friday, you would have to wait till Monday, Tuesday for any updates to be seen on the whereabouts of your document. But now, with the advent of e-governance, you can check live updates of documents online. So, government has also become 24/7, anytime, anywhere. Because of all these factors, we also see a reduction in the end-to-end time. Transaction cost reduces because time to deliver services, it has also come down. Then, because of centralized availability of information, because you can access information at any given point of time, because of live status update, there is also the aspect of transparency. Greater transparency with respect to performance of governmental functions because of live status updates being available. So it also helps in checking corruption. And finally, it can facilitate greater democratic engagement. As I gave you the example of the website mygov.in, wherein people can also participate effectively in the functioning of the government. Or you have the EVMs, wherein we have witnessed a consistent increase in the voter turnout, which came up to as high as over 67% in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. So, these are some of the advantages with respect to incorporation of e-governance. Now, just to add, in the current scenario of the pandemic, how and what is the significance of e-governance during the pandemic? See, during the COVID-19 pandemic, e-governance became a necessary element of communication, leadership, and coordination among policy makers, administration, and society. The enforcement of social distancing by central as well as local governments during the pandemic led to enhanced role of e-governance initiatives in delivering critical services or facilities to the citizens at large. So some examples, some of these notable initiatives were: number one, information dissemination. In its fight against COVID-19, India has leveraged e-governance for various kinds of information dissemination, tracing, and monitoring services. For example, the government ordered all telecom firms to make a 30-second audio clip on coronavirus as a caller tune of mobile phone users to create awareness amongst masses. Another such notable initiative is the Arogya Setu app. So the Arogya Setu app is a contact tracing, mapping and self-assessment digital service. Number 2, virtual hearing of cases and e-court services. Even though Supreme Court was not able to hold physical hearings during the pandemic, it took suo motu cognizance of several critical issues like supply of oxygen, supply of essential drugs, method and manner of vaccination, etc. through online mode. The e-court services mobile app aimed to benefit litigants, citizens, lawyers, law firms, government agencies, police, and other institutional litigants. Then, e-governance infrastructure. The online database of COVID-19 cases, lockdown guidelines, travel restrictions, locating the vacant beds in the hospitals, oxygen cylinders, financial assistance, relief distribution, so on and so forth were carried out only through e-governance infrastructure. For example, the e-pass service. The e-pass service was used by the states to provide movement during COVID-19 pandemic. Public confidence and trust in such an ambitious digitalization process is vital to the Indian government's pandemic response and to the future of India's citizen-state relations. Then we also had the access to rations. With Jan Dhan Aadhaar mobile linkage, JAM, it became easy for distribution of the cash payments, rations of food supplies through the PDS, the public distribution systems, and the distribution of the relief package under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, which supported the people in the pandemic. Then, easy vaccinations. The CoWIN app became the main e-governance tool that supported the citizens to get the vaccination. Equity, safety, coverage, transparency, and accountability, good governance in short, were key goals in COVID-19 vaccination program and were facilitated by this CoWIN app. However, while availing the benefits of e-governance, there are bound to be some issues which we will discuss later on. Issues such as inclusivity, rural-urban digital divide, privacy and data protection concerns, trust building in e-governance, ICT management, poor human organizational and technological infrastructure, and hence it should also be taken note of by the appropriate authorities to bridge this gap. So even in ordinary times, managing governance risks is challenging. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the challenges have become extraordinarily difficult due to the speed and scale of COVID-19 response programs, work overload on implementing institutions, safety concerns, and lockdowns. As Albert Einstein once said, in the middle of a difficulty lies opportunity. This has again been proved by the rapid emergence of various e-governance solutions across India as a response to the COVID-19 outbreak. Moving on, let us now also discuss the Digital India program. The Digital India program 2015 has a vision. The vision is to transform India into a digitally empowered society and a knowledge economy. And this Digital India program, DIP, has 3 vision areas. It is centered on 3 key vision areas. Area number 1, digital infrastructure as core utility to every citizen. Herein, you have various aspects like availability of high-speed internet. High-speed internet as a core utility for delivery of services to citizens. For example, the coverage of 2.5 lakh gram panchayats, greater network penetration, recasting over 1.5 lakh post offices as multi-service centers. All these are aspects of ensuring availability of high-speed internet as a core utility for delivering of services to citizens. Then, cradle to grave digital identity that is unique, that is lifelong, that is online and authenticable to every citizen. For example, the Aadhaar card. Then, mobile phone and bank account enabling citizen participation in digital and financial space. Easy access to a common service center. Shareable private space on a public cloud. For example, you have DigiLockers. DigiLockers would enable citizens to securely store all their important documents and credentials. The electronic documents can be shared with public agencies or others without the need to physically submit them. Then we have safe and secure cyberspace. The second key vision is governance and services on demand, meaning seamlessly integrated services across departments or jurisdiction. Availability of services in real time from online and mobile platforms using laptops and mobile phones. All citizen entitlements to be portable and available on the cloud. The cloud platform can host online repositories for all possible entitlements, thereby providing a single source of truth. This can include areas like the public distribution systems, BPL entitlements, social sector benefits, LPGs, and such other subsidies. The platform can enable automated registration, maintenance, and delivery of citizen entitlements under several government schemes. This will provide delivery for these entitlements on an anywhere, anytime basis. Then, digitally transformed services for improving ease of doing business. For example, we have something called the eBiz project. eBiz project provides integrated services across various central and state departments or agencies through a single window mechanism to all businesses and investors for setting up any commercial enterprise. Or the MCA 21, the MMP, the Mission Mode project, aims at providing electronic services for statutory requirements and other business-related services. Then the E-Trade. E-Trade is a Mission Mode project which facilitates foreign trade in India by promoting effective and efficient delivery of services by various regulatory and facilitating agencies which are involved in foreign trade to enable traders to avail online services from these agencies. Then, making financial transactions electronic and cashless. Department of Electronics and Telecommunications, Department of Electronics and Information Technology has created PayGov India as a centralized payment gateway for all government departments and agencies in the country. It is operated and maintained by NSDL Database Management Limited, a wholly owned subsidiary of the National Securities Depository Limited, NSDL. Then leveraging Geospatial Information Systems, GIS, for decision support systems and development. So you have the National Geospatial Information System, NGIS, which is being implemented to integrate geospatial data available with a number of organizations such as Survey of India, National Informatics Center, NRSA, and the Ministry of Earth Sciences to develop a GIS platform for e-governance applications. Number 3 is the digital empowerment of citizens with focus on universal digital literacy. The focus today is on making at least one person e-literate in every household. National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology, an autonomous society under DEITY, that is the Department of Electronics and Information Technology, has identified more than 5,000 facilitation centers across the country for training on courses which will equip a person to undertake e-governance transactions through computers and other basic activities like emails, like browsing the internet, etc. Then, universally accessible digital resources, open sources, for example, books and other study materials to be made available for everyone's benefit. Then, availability of digital resources and services in Indian languages. Collaborative digital platforms for participative governance. Citizens are not required now to physically submit government documents and certificates. That is also a very important aspect of digital empowerment, where you don't need to carry your certificates physically. Online submission, again, as I said, through DigiLockers, all these things are now being allowed. This is a comprehensive idea on which the Digital India Program 2015 is based. Now, just to present some examples of initiatives taken by certain states. You can also add any special initiative that your state has taken while incorporating e-governance. For example, we have something called the e-Seva in Andhra Pradesh, which is the payment of utility bills being made easier, issuance of caste certificates, licenses, permits, etc. Similarly, we have Lokwani in UP, payment of bills, issuing caste certificates, licenses and permits. Then Khajane project in Karnataka, wherein the state's treasury system has been digitized. Or the very famous Friends in Kerala. Friends stands for fast, reliable, instant, efficient network for disbursement of services. This is Friends. Friends is a single window integrated remittance center where citizens can pay all taxes and other financial dues to government. Friends accepts payments of the Kerala University, local body, Kerala State Electricity Board, the KSEB, Kerala Water Authority, Revenue, Civil Supplies, Motor Vehicles, Electrical Inspectorate and various other departments. So, these are some of the initiatives that the states have taken in their own state incorporating e-governance. Now, as of now, this could just be some examples, but before your interview, you should also incorporate any initiatives that your state has taken to incorporate ICT to improve service delivery. So that is all as far as the initiatives which have been taken by the center and the states. Now let's come and also discuss the challenges, a few challenges with respect to e-governance. First things first is the digital divide and digital trust. 75% of net users live in urban areas. This automatically means that there's a huge digital divide. Plus, there are still issues with respect to digital trust. People are yet to trust the digital system. That is why, despite the proper, effective and the convenient use of ATMs, there are a lot of people who are still not ready to simply use ATMs, forget using e-banking, online banking. Then the problem of proper work plan development. Now there is something called 6 C's of work plan development. Number 1 is content development, meaning whatever content is available on the website, it should be reviewed regularly and should be updated. Number 2 is competence building. Competence building of public servants or training, the capacity building of the public servants to ensure that they are adept at using e-governance. Then we have connectivity to the last mile to ensure the delivery of services at the doorstep for everyone. There should be equity. Then you have cyber laws. There should be cyber laws in place, effective and proper laws in place, appropriate laws in place to ensure the safety and security of data. Then coming to citizen interface. Citizen interface, that is the website you use to interact with the government. It should be affordable, it should be easily accessible and should be understood, and should also have an alternative and option to be viewed in vernacular or local language. And then finally, capital, meaning identifying revenue schemes such as user charges to make e-governance intervention self-sustaining. Sadly, the governments have practically underperformed in all 6 C's. You will see that the review and updation of the contents of state government websites, most of them is very poor. Competence and capacity building of the public servants is yet to be achieved. Connectivity is still an issue, at least connectivity to far-flung areas. Then cyber laws, we do not have these laws in place for data protection. Then citizen interface. Yes, this is one area where we can say that we need to work the most because the websites are poorly designed. The interface should be more interactive and should be more accessible. But one area where the governments have actually taken a proper step is capital. We can see that the use of e-governance interventions are primarily self-sustaining and is actually affordable and cheap. But beyond that, in most of the areas of work plan development, we feel that the governments have not performed appropriately. Then the problem of narrow vision. What is this narrow vision? E-governance generally does not involve stakeholders, and therefore you will find that societal concerns are generally not reflected in e-governance solutions. So that is the problem of narrow vision. Then inadequacy of government process re-engineering. Meaning what? Some processes in the government are way too complex, way too complicated, and even before we have to or we are able to incorporate e-governance, we have to simplify these processes. So as I said, some processes are way too complex that they need to be simplified even before e-governance can be implemented, and this process is way too slow. And primarily, when we say that because of the advent of e-governance, transparency has increased, the real issue is that the check on corruption and improvement in transparency is more incidental. It has happened by chance. It was not intentional. Government has categorically failed to develop e-solutions with the specific aim of delivering upon the twin objectives of transparency and accountability. And whatever transparency that we see, that we witness, is just sheer chance of the incorporation of e-governance. It is not a pre-planned route that the government has taken. And then, as we discussed right at the onset, e-governance in India is largely stuck in the information dissemination stage, and we are very slowly moving towards a two-way data transfer or communication. So we have to also make our websites, all of them, interactive. Now finally, if you remember, we began our discussion through one statement made by the incumbent Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, about how e-governance will usher in an era of good governance. But this is where the problem lies. E-governance is often seen as a panacea, one-stop solution, all-weather solution for all governance ills. E-governance is not a panacea for all governance ills. It's not the combi flam that you're looking, that whatever happens, take this medicine and the problem is solved. No, some good governance is a prerequisite. For example, filing of taxes is online, but does it give us any control on how our money, how public money is being used? No. Filing of cases is now possible online, but does that ensure justice? Does that reduce the pendency, the delay of cases? No. Running schools, running hospitals becomes easier through incorporation of e-governance. But does it also ensure the construction and availability of such schools and hospitals in remote areas? No. That is why I said some good governance is a prerequisite. We have to have some good governance in place before we can incorporate e-governance and take full advantage of e-governance. So these are some of the very important challenges pertaining to e-governance. Now, let us also see a couple of surveys, of which the first one is the UN e-government survey. So this survey is published by the UNDESA, the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs, over a period of 2 years, once every 2 years. It looks at how digital government and the countries which incorporate e-governance can facilitate integrated policies and services across the union countries, the 193 countries. It supports countries' efforts to provide effective, to provide accountable, to provide inclusive digital services, and to bridge any digital divide if it exists. Now, coming to the scoring and the ranking. So scores range from 0 to 1, very high, high, medium and low, and it is calculated based on a composite index with 3 components. Component number 1, OSI, the Online Services Index, wherein things like DLs, visa, death certificate, registration of vehicles, registration of business, is the country providing services online and how many? So scores are given based on the services being provided and how many services are being provided by the government online. Secondly, we have TII, the Telecommunications Infrastructure Index, which talks about mobile subscriptions per 100 people, broadband per 100 people, what percentage of individuals are using internet. So scores are given on that parameter. And finally, HCI, the Human Capital Index, wherein we have things like adult literacy, we have things like the gross enrollment ratio, expected years of schooling, mean years of schooling. So scores are calculated along these lines. With this, the 11th survey results came out and the top 3 countries were Denmark, Korea reference to South Korea, and Estonia. And other important countries were UK ranked at 7, USA at China, our best friends China at 45, Brazil at 54, Russia at 36. India, even though scored 0.59 and was rated in the high category, the rank is 100. So India has to improve especially the TII, wherein the mobile subscription, the broadband subscription, the number of people using internet, that has to increase. Because our scores were the worst in TII, that is the Telecommunication Infrastructure Index. So this was India's rank and India's score, and these are the top 3 countries. Now, coming to the 23rd National Conference on E-Governance. This conference was held in Mumbai on the 7th and 8th of February 2020. So basically, this conference was organized by the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances and the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. And the theme was Digital Transformation, India 2020 Digital Transformation. Now, this conference was supposed to be held last year as well, but could not be held because of the ongoing pandemic. Hopefully in 2022, this year, we may witness the hosting of this conference, and if you do, please update this information with respect to the new rankings, new theme, and also the place in which this conference is being held. So, under this conference, there were 6 themes. Theme number 1 was digital platforms and digital economy, providing platforms to people. Then building trust, transparency, security and privacy, meaning ensuring that there is trust that the governments will not misuse data, the data will not leak. Then The National E-Governance Service Delivery Assessment, a survey conducted by the DARPG, which we will see shortly. Then improving service delivery, digital payments and fintech, and most importantly, capacity building, skilling and capacity building of people as well as public servants to ensure effective delivery of services. So coming to the National E-Governance Service Delivery Assessment. This ranking was conducted, the survey was conducted in 2019. As I said, the ranking was released by DARPG, the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances, which comes under the Ministry of Personnel, Pensions and Public Grievances. So this is done under 4 categories. The states, UTs and ministries are categorized into 4 categories. We have the UTs, we have the northeastern states and hill states, and then the remaining states. Central government ministries websites were categorized separately. And since this was released wherein Jammu and Kashmir was just a state, hence 29 states and 7 UTs. So the idea was to improve the overall e-government development by evaluating the efficiency of service delivery mechanism from citizens' perspective. How efficient, how effective have the states been, have the ministries been in incorporating e-governance in service delivery? So there were 7 key parameters like accessibility. Is information accessible? Content availability. Ease of use. Is the website easy to use? Information security and privacy. Whatever information you feed in the website, will it be secure? Will it be private? Then end service delivery, integrated service delivery, status and request tracking. Is there an option, an alternative to track your status, the status of your request? So along these key parameters, scoring was done and rankings were released. So coming to the rankings, the top UT amongst all the UTs was Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Amongst the northeastern states, Himachal Pradesh was at the top, and amongst states, Kerala, followed by Goa, followed by Haryana, were at the top. Amongst the central government ministries, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare was at the top with the best website and incorporation of ICT, followed by the Ministry of Education. So this was a NESDA, the survey that was conducted and the results that were released by DARPG. So that is all as far as e-governance is concerned. Let us also look up at some questions that have been asked in the recent times on e-governance.